This is a nice report that came out of multiple organizations, mainly G20, especially when G20 was held in India, because I think India was the rotating president during of G20 during 2023. Put up a great show, and SCAP 75, United Nations Disaster Risk Reduction, WMO, of course, WFP, Food Program, and RHYMES and so on together produced this disaster risk reduction working group. Priority 1, early warnings for all. This is the so-called input paper, early warnings for all in Asia and the Pacific, opportunities for action. I have a whole course on S2F, sub-seasonal to seasonal predictions, which are essentially what early warnings are all about, and we will read this report briefly. As usual, I'm only taking a few main points. If you want, the report is available online that you can download and read. So let's start with the executive summary, and then we'll look at some figures with some details. This will not be finished in one podcast, so I'll do it in multiple podcasts, and I have something in my eyes. With an ambitious target of ensuring that everyone on Earth is protected by life-saving warnings against increasingly extreme weather in the next 5 years, it is imperative that populations are covered by fit-for-purpose and fit-for-the-budget early warning systems designed to address evolving riskscapes of the world. Asia Pacific, most of the tropical countries are warming rapidly. Heat waves, floods, droughts, cyclones, typhoons, etc. are obviously problems. Exposed to complex and diverse disaster risks, Asia and the Pacific is the world's most disaster impacted region. Half a century of disasters in Asia and the Pacific have killed over 2 million people, 60% of the global death toll. That amounts to 105 lives every day, or one life every 13 minutes. In the rest of the world, the average number of fatalities per disaster was 189, but in Asia and the Pacific it was much higher at 338. Moreover, across Asia and the Pacific, disaster fatalities are uneven still. More than 1 million, that is 50% of the fatalities, are from South and Southwest Asia, followed by East and Northeast Asia and Southeast Asia. Least developed countries and small island developing states are the most impacted in terms of the percent of population and size of the economies that were affected during this period. SCAP's latest study shows that the geographies of climate risk hotspots are shifting under global warming of 1.5 and 2 degrees C. So that's about the projections. Where will we end up if we warmed up to 1.5 or 2 degrees? There are uncertainties in those. I will discuss these more when I come to the maps of future risks, because making maps of country level risks or even state level risks or even district level risks can be tricky, because how to convert that into preventive actions, adaptations and so on are not very easy. You need hyper local risk information ultimately, but we'll proceed with what exists now and what's in the report. The hazard risk will intensify among the existing hotspots, and new areas of risk hotspots will start emerging. Early warning coverage is lowest for developing countries, least developed countries, and small island developing states. In the region, on the front lines of climate change, these are the places. Early warnings for all must include those vulnerable communities in climate hotspots who are being blindsided by cascading climate disasters without any means of prior alert. Prior alert can save lots of lives, allow preventive actions and quick recoveries, minimizing impacts and so on. This thematic position paper outlines how the global battle to reduce disaster losses by 2030 will be won or lost in Asia and the Pacific. Starting with early warnings for all in this region, the G20 provides an opportunity to support and supplement ongoing initiatives to achieve 100% coverage of early warning systems across the world. So I just jumped ahead. Sections 1 to 3 are dedicated here to outlining the current disaster context for Asia and the Pacific, the major transboundary hazards, and the risk scape at 1.5 and 2 degree warming. Following will be section 4 that presents the current capabilities, capacities and gaps of early warning systems across the region, and section 5 and 6 lay out the proposed opportunities and solutions advancing early warning systems in a cost effective way to ultimately save lives and livelihoods from disasters now and as our climate continues to evolve. Accounting for cost effectiveness is very critical because many of these are low income countries and least developed countries and so on and so forth, and international finance is anything but guaranteed, and loss and damage mechanism, if you've been following on that, is still struggling even though theoretically there is an agreement. So for deliberations at the G20 Working Group on Disaster Risk Reduction, this thematic paper will present the case for the following proposed action tracks. Track number 1, support for a regional plan of action for early warnings for all to accelerate implementation of the Global Executive Action Plan. Track 2, financing fit for purpose and fit for budget early warning business models built on regional cooperation mechanisms. This has to be transboundary as well because climate change doesn't care about international boundaries. The subcontinent of India, for example, Indian subcontinent, let's say, Pakistan, Nepal, India, Bangladesh, Bhutan and Burma and so on. Well, they are not in the Indian subcontinent, but nonetheless, all of these are tied together in terms of their climate vulnerabilities, which can quickly become geopolitical issues if they are not careful and bound up in regional action plans. Financing fit for the purpose and fit for budget early warning business models built on regional cooperation mechanisms, and of course digital platform for knowledge sharing, which again comes down to regional cooperation. So let me leave this here just as an opening podcast, since we'll be making multiple. I don't want to make them too long anyway, so this is a good breaking point. So we'll come back and read some specifics, including the recommendations and opportunities and so on. Okay, see you in the next podcast then.